Okay, let's unpack this. Look at the produce aisle of your local grocery store.
Yeah, the first section.
Right, exactly. So
Yeah.
you're navigating past, the vibrant greens of the spinach, the bright red bell peppers, the deep purple eggplants, and eventually you find this pale, bumpy, somewhat intimidating-looking sphere.
Cauliflower.
Cauliflower. I mean, for decades, it was basically the vegetable equivalent of the character actor. Right?
Yeah.
One who spent their entire career playing boring, forgettable background roles.
Oh, absolutely. Just a complete afterthought in the culinary world for generations, really.
It was the sad, boiled side dish your grandmother made.
Mm-hmm.
Or that raw, hard vegetable left stranded on the party platter after all the carrots and celery were gone. Nobody really paid attention to it.
Well, because it was cheap, It was cheap, it was bulky, and because most people simply boiled it, it often turned into this mushy, just waterlogged mess.
Yeah.
And it filled the kitchen with this sulfurous smell that nobody actually wanted to come home to.
Yeah, that cabbage smell. It had a terrible PR problem.
It really did.
But then, almost overnight, this unassuming character actor steps into the spotlight and becomes an A-list action star. Well, it's suddenly everywhere.
Carrying entire culinary franchises.
Yes, it has completely revolutionized modern cooking. And the mission of our deep dive today is to figure out exactly how and why this once-forgotten vegetable completely transformed to become really the absolute superstar staple of low-carb lifestyle.
Well, it's a massive shift.
It is. And by the time we are done today, you're going to view this pale vegetable as the ultimate culinary chameleon.
I love that because the adoption of cauliflower as a staple replacement for heavy carbohydrates, it isn't just some clever marketing trick.
Right, it's not a fad.
No, not at all. It's built on a foundation of genuine nutritional science and some incredibly unique physical properties that chefs and, well, home cooks too, finally figured out how to unlock. We are essentially watching food science solve a very real problem in modern diets.
Right, the problem being that we want the physical sensation of eating comfort foods, but we're actively trying to avoid that metabolic crash that comes with heavy starches.
Exactly, the carb coma.
Yeah. But before we get into the kitchen alchemy, before we talk about the physical mechanics of how it perfectly impersonates a pizza crust or a bowl of rice, we really need to talk about what is actually happening nutritionally under that pale head.
The foundation of it all.
Yeah, like, why should we even want to eat it in the first place? What's the engine driving the health benefits here?
Well, what's fascinating here is its botanical family tree. Cauliflower is a cruciferous vegetable,
Okay.
which puts it in the exact same category as some of the most famous nutritional heavyweights out there. We're talking broccoli,
Right.
Brussels sprouts, kale.
I mean, cruciferous always sounds like an intense, formidable word for a plant.
It does sound a bit intimidating.
It really does. But visually, honestly, it feels like a mismatch. I mean, when you look at kale and broccoli, they look like health food.
Sure, yeah, because of the color.
Right. They're dark green, they look earthy and robust. But cauliflower is basically white. It looks like a dense cloud of starch. It just doesn't look like it belongs in a powerhouse family.
I get that. We are heavily conditioned to associate deep, vibrant colors with high nutritional density.
Right, like blueberries.
Exactly. Things like anthocyanins in blueberries or beta-carotene in sweet potatoes. And because cauliflower lacks that deep pigmentation, it was totally underestimated. But it is absolutely packed with a potent class of phytonutrients called glucosinolates.
Glucosinolates.
Yeah, these are the sulfur-containing compounds that give cruciferous vegetables their slightly bitter bite when you eat them raw.
Okay, so the notes we have on glucosinolates mention that they support the body's natural detoxification pathways and have powerful anti-inflammatory properties.
They do.
So, to conceptualize this, do these glucosinolates basically act like the body's internal biological cleaning crew? Like they are actively scrubbing out toxins from our cells and putting out inflammatory fires all over the body?
Taking that biological cleaning crew analogy a step further, it's not that the glucosinolates themselves act as the sponge scrubbing your cells.
Oh.
It's a bit more sophisticated than that. When you chop or chew cauliflower, an enzyme called myrosinase is released.
Myrosinase.
Right. That enzyme converts those glucosinolates into active compounds, the most notable one being sulforaphane. And when sulforaphane enters your cells, it literally flips a specific genetic switch.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a biological pathway known as NRF2.
Wait, so we are essentially sending a signal to our own DNA.
Precisely. We are upregulating our own cellular defense mechanisms. The NRF2 pathway tells the cell's nucleus to produce a massive wave of its own internal antioxidants and detoxifying enzymes.
Rather than just giving the body an antioxidant.
Exactly. Instead of just dropping off a single cleaning crew, you are signaling the cellular factory to build an entire fleet of its own defense mechanisms.
That is wild.
It is. This process actively neutralizes free radicals and clears out environmental toxins from the liver far more effectively than just, taking a standard antioxidant vitamin pill.
I mean, that perfectly explains the anti-inflammatory side of the equation as well. If your body is constantly clearing out the cellular junk and neutralizing free radicals, you're removing the triggers that cause chronic inflammation.
You're getting right to the root of it.
Right, and chronic inflammation is tied to almost every major modern disease, from joint degradation to cardiovascular issues.
The preventative maintenance happening at a cellular level is substantial. And beyond the NRSF2 activation, cauliflower delivers a heavy payload of foundational vitamins too.
Like what?
Well, just a single cup gives you a massive percentage of your daily vitamin C requirement.
See, that's surprising. We generally default to citrus when we think of vitamin C, right? Oranges, grapefruits.
Sure, most people do.
But those come with a significant hit of fructose, which is fruit sugar.
Exactly. Cauliflower gives you that same immune defense, actively stimulating the production and function of white blood cells, but entirely without the sugar spike.
Nice.
It also brings in a solid dose of vitamin K, which dictates where calcium goes in the body.
Meaning
It ensures the calcium gets directed to your bones rather than calcifying in your blood vessels, which is crucial for heart health. Add in folate, a B vitamin critical for synthesizing and repairing DNA, and you have an incredibly robust nutritional profile.
So we have this pale, unassuming vegetable acting as a shield for the immune system, a repair kit for damaged cells, and an initiator for our internal detox pathways.
It's doing a lot of heavy lifting.
It really is. The health credentials are undeniable. It absolutely belongs in the ring with broccoli and kale. But that brings us to a glaring question.
Okay, let's hear it.
Kale and broccoli are incredibly healthy. They are packed with those exact same cruciferous benefits. But nobody, and I mean nobody, is out there successfully making a pizza crust out of kale.
No, definitely not.
Or trying to mash broccoli to taste like a creamy potato. Why cauliflower?
Well, if you tried to make a dough out of kale, it would just incinerate into flaky dust in the oven.
Right.
The divergence happens because of two inherent physical traits that are entirely unique to cauliflower: its structural cellular architecture and its neutral flavor profile.
Okay, let's break down the physical architecture first.
Sure. When you look closely at a head of cauliflower, you are looking at tightly packed, undeveloped flower buds.
The curds, right.
Exactly, the curds. And from a structural standpoint, these curds are supported by a specific matrix of plant fibers, primarily cellulose and pectin.
Okay, cellulose and pectin.
The cellulose provides a rigid physical structure, and the pectin acts as a sort of intercellular glue holding it all together.
So it's tough.
Yes. So when you apply heat, instead of turning into complete mush like a zucchini would, or breaking down into a stringy mess like celery, the pectin in cauliflower holds that cellulose network together just enough to retain a distinct mouthfeel.
Got it. It provides a hearty, satisfying texture. It has a bite to it, a chewiness that closely mimics the mechanical sensation of eating grains or heavy starches.
Yes. You get the mechanical satisfaction of eating a dense carbohydrate, but you bypass the physiological response.
Because there's no starch.
Exactly.
Okay.
The core issue with heavy starches isn't just the caloric density, it's the glycemic index.
Right.
When you eat a massive plate of traditional pasta or a large baked potato, those dense carbohydrates are rapidly broken down into glucose. That floods your bloodstream, causing a massive spike in insulin levels.
The inevitable sugar rush, followed by the crash.
Oh, yeah.
That sluggish, heavy, exhausted feeling you get an hour after a massive carb-heavy meal.
But because cauliflower is mostly just water and indigestible fiber, its glycemic load is incredibly low.
Yeah.
You maintain completely stable blood sugar levels while still feeling physically satiated by the bulk of that fiber matrix.
So the texture mimics starch, and the fiber keeps you full without the crash. That makes total sense. But wait, here's where it gets really interesting for me, and frankly where I have to push back a little bit.
All right, hit me.
The second trait making this transformation possible is a neutral flavor profile.
Yes.
But if it has a totally neutral flavor, doesn't that just mean it tastes like nothing? How does a bowl of nothing become a satisfying comfort food? When you crave a big bowl of mashed potatoes or a hot slice of pizza, you aren't craving nothing. You want deep, rich, comforting flavor.
I completely see why you'd say that, but if we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to entirely rethink how we define flavor in the context of cooking.
How so?
A neutral flavor isn't a negative attribute. It's not a void. In the culinary world, a neutral flavor is one of the most highly prized characteristics an ingredient can possess because it acts as a blank canvas.
A blank canvas.
Yeah. Think about traditional pasta, white rice, or a standard flour pizza crust. On their own, completely unseasoned, they don't taste like much of anything. They are delivery systems.
Oh, that's true. I don't think I've ever eaten a spoonful of plain, unseasoned white flour or a bowl of boiled white rice with nothing on it and thought it was an explosion of flavor.
No, of course not.
We love those foods because of the marinara sauce, the melted butter, the roasted garlic, and the cheese we put on top of them.
Exactly. The heavy carbohydrates are just structural vehicles for fat and salt, and cauliflower acts as the exact same vehicle.
Okay, I see.
Its cellular architecture gives you the physical vessel, the mouthfeel of a starch, and its neutral flavor means it won't fight against the complex seasonings you apply to it. If you try to make a pizza crust out of broccoli, every single bite is going to aggressively scream, "Broccoli!" completely clashing with your tomato sauce and mozzarella.
It ruined the whole vibe.
Totally. Cauliflower just steps back and lets the garlic, the herbs, and the cheese take center stage.
It is the ultimate team player. It does all the heavy lifting structurally and lets the other ingredients take all the credit for the taste.
Perfectly said.
Okay, so we understand the physical architecture. We have a structural blank canvas that scrubs our cells and protects our immune system without spiking our insulin. How do we actually execute these culinary transformations in the kitchen?
The practical application.
Right, because it's one thing to say it's a chameleon, it's another to engineer it to actually taste like comfort food. If you look at the menus driving this low-carb revolution, chefs are basically using 4 core techniques to hack this vegetable: ricing, mashing, roasting, and baking. Let's start with ricing.
Well, ricing was really the gateway to this entire movement. I mean, cauliflower rice is a staple in the freezer aisle of almost every grocery store now.
It's everywhere.
It is, and the mechanical process of ricing takes direct advantage of that dense bud structure we just discussed. By pulsing the raw curds in a food processor, the rigid cellulose walls shatter into distinct grain-sized pieces rather than pulverizing into a wet paste.
So it maintains its integrity.
Yes.
And when you move it to the pan to saute it, usually with garlic, herbs, and olive oil, I look at rice cauliflower like a culinary sponge.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Because with traditional white rice, a lot of times the seasoning just sits on the outside of the grain. It kind of wears its flavor like a coat. But cauliflower structure seems to just drink up whatever's in the pan.
That's spot on. And the reason for that is cauliflower has a much higher water content than dry grains.
Right, it's a vegetable.
So as you saute it, the heat evaporates that internal moisture. And that evaporation process creates a slight vacuum effect within the cellular matrix.
Wait, really? A vacuum effect?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It draws the fat-soluble flavors from the olive oil and garlic deeply into the tissue of the vegetable itself. You aren't just coating the outside, you are fundamentally infusing the interior of the plant.
Wow. And unlike a massive bowl of actual rice, you can eat a huge portion of this culinary sponge and never feel weighed down in your stomach.
Exactly. You stay light on your feet.
Okay, let's move to the second technique, mashing. Now, mashed potatoes are the undisputed king of comfort food. Taking a swing at mashed potatoes is a bold move.
It's sacred ground for a lot of people.
Very sacred. Potatoes naturally rely on heavy starches to get that creamy, whipped, thick texture. So since cauliflower doesn't have starch, how do we pull off the illusion?
Well, it requires altering the physical state of the vegetable through heat, moisture, and fat.
Walk me through it.
You start by steaming the curds. Steaming softens the pectin, that intercellular glue we mentioned, making the rigid structure tender without waterlogging it the way boiling would.
Okay, no boiling.
Right. Once it's tender, you blend it. But the crucial step to replacing the missing starch is the introduction of a fat source. So things like olive oil, butter, or Greek yogurt.
Ah, so you are using the fat to physically replicate the mouthfeel of the missing carbohydrate.
Exactly. You are engineering an emulsion. When you blend the steamed, water-rich cauliflower with olive oil, the high-speed shearing forces the oil into microscopic droplets that suspend throughout the vegetable puree.
Okay, I can picture that.
This emulsion perfectly mimics the thick, velvety consistency that potato starches naturally create. And if you use Greek yogurt, the casein proteins in the dairy provide a similar stabilizing effect while adding this really nice, tangy richness.
So you are swapping a high glycemic starch base for a nutrient-dense, healthy fat base.
That's exactly it.
That's brilliant. All right, we've hacked rice, we've hacked potatoes. Roasting is the third technique, and this is where we stop trying to make cauliflower impersonate a starch and let it shine on its own merits as a centerpiece.
I love roasting it. Roasting a whole head of cauliflower utilizes high, dry heat, which triggers a very specific chemical process known as the Maillard reaction.
The browning process, the exact same chemical reaction that gives a seared steak its crust or baked bread its golden color.
Yes, the Maillard reaction is this complex interaction between amino acids and reducing sugars present in the food.
But cauliflower isn't really sweet.
It's low in overall sugar, true, but it has enough natural carbohydrates and amino acids that when you coat the entire head in olive oil and subject it to a 400-degree oven, those compounds start rapidly reorganizing.
So you toss it with some cumin and oil, and the edges of those tightly packed florets caramelize.
Yes, and that caramelization transforms the flavor profile entirely.
In what way?
Well, it takes the slightly brassy, sulfurous notes of the raw vegetable and mellows them into something deeply savory, nutty, and complex.
Yeah.
And structurally, the outside becomes crisp and caramelized, while the internal steam softens the core, turning it into this dense, golden brown dome that you can literally carve at the dinner table like a traditional roast.
It completely elevates it from an afterthought side dish to the main event.
It really does.
Which brings us to the final and arguably most famous application, baking it into a crispy pizza crust.
The holy grail.
The holy grail of low-carb cooking. But honestly, the idea of a watery, pale vegetable turning into a rigid crust that you can pick up with your hands to hold hot cheese and pepperoni, it completely defies logic. How is it chemically possible?
Well, the primary obstacle in this transformation is moisture. Cauliflower is roughly 92% water.
That's a lot of water for a dough.
Right. So to use it as a structural dough, you have to break it down into rice, cook it slightly to release the internal moisture, and then physically extract as much of that water as possible, usually by wrapping it in a cheesecloth and wringing it out.
You essentially have to squeeze the life out of it, like wringing out a wet towel.
Exactly. You are intentionally collapsing the cellular structure to leave behind mostly dry, fibrous cellulose.
Okay, so you have the dry base. Then what?
Once you have that dry fibrous base, you have to introduce a binder to replace the gluten found in traditional wheat flour.
Because gluten is what makes dough stretchy.
Right. Gluten is a highly elastic protein network that acts like a web, trapping steam and giving bread its chew and rigid structure.
But since cauliflower has zero gluten, you use an egg and some hard cheese, like Parmesan, to build a new web.
Exactly. The albumin proteins in the egg and the casein in the melting cheese physically interlock with the dried plant cellulose. As it bakes, the egg proteins coagulate, forming a brand new structural web that binds the cauliflower fibers together.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
And the cheese melts and then crisps, adding rigidity. Because you painstakingly remove the moisture beforehand, it doesn't steam in the oven, it bakes and crisps.
Giving you an actual crust.
The result is a firm, rigid base, completely capable of supporting heavy toppings.
It is absolute kitchen alchemy. You are breaking down the natural architecture of a plant, extracting the water, substituting the plant gluten with animal proteins, and rebuilding it into a completely different culinary form.
And it is the ultimate hack for your diet. You know, the hardest part of managing your blood sugar or watching your weight is usually the feeling of deprivation. You feel like you are losing the physical experience of eating the foods you love.
Yeah, giving up the comfort foods that make you feel good.
But with this approach, you are getting all of the comfort food satisfaction, the hearty chew of a pizza crust, the warm creaminess of a mash, the savory bite of a rice dish, without the physiological cost of an insulin spike.
Right.
You aren't depriving yourself of the experience of eating, you are just upgrading the mechanics of the meal.
So what does this all mean? We've traced the journey of this vegetable from the sad, boiled afterthought of the produce aisle to the high-tech, low-carb superstar of modern kitchens.
I think the broader implication is that our understanding of food is rapidly evolving. We are no longer just accepting ingredients for what they traditionally are. We are learning how to manipulate their cellular properties to better serve our biological needs.
That's a great way to look at it.
We can bypass the metabolic costs of heavy carbohydrates by getting smarter about how we utilize plant fibers, heat, and fats.
The core takeaway for you listening right now is that eating healthy absolutely does not require giving up your favorite textures. You don't have to banish creamy mashes, crispy pizza crusts, or savory rice bowls from your life.
Not at all.
It just requires a slight shift in perspective. It requires looking at the ingredients we've taken for granted, understanding the mechanics of how they are built, and asking, what else can this do?
Yeah, it is about working smarter in the kitchen, utilizing the science of cooking to your advantage.
Absolutely. So here is our call to action for you this week. The next time you are navigating that produce aisle, don't just walk past the cauliflower. Pick up a head.
Get the big one.
Get the big one. Take it home and try out that roasting method we talked about. Toss it with some olive oil, hit it with some cumin and sea salt, and subject it to that high, dry heat until the Maillard reaction takes over and caramelizes the edges.
It's so good.
Experience the chemistry firsthand. The depth of flavor and the hearty texture will completely surprise you.
It is a very simple technique that completely redefines the potential of the ingredient.
It really does. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder, something to chew on the next time you are wandering through the grocery store.
Okay, let's hear it.
We just spent all this time talking about how a completely neutral, pale, often ignored vegetable could be entirely re-engineered into the ultimate substitute for our most beloved comfort foods, simply by understanding its pectin and cellulose structure and applying the right techniques.
Right.
If cauliflower can do all of that, what other boring, forgotten ingredients are sitting in the produce aisle right now, just waiting for the right cooking technique to spark the next massive food revolution? Think about it.
There are thousands of edible plants out there. The next blank canvas is probably hiding in plain sight.
Stay curious out there. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.